This is a hidden camera in Nairobi that caught a hospital worker selling a baby boy like he was selling a phone. A girl in Cape Town who walked past her real mother in the streets for years and she never knew it. There is a crime happening in Africa that sounds impossible to believe. It's happening now, not in a war zone, but in the brightest, safest and most trusted buildings we have. Hospitals. Places with locked doors, security guards, nurses in clean uniforms, and yet babies are going in and not coming out. And some mothers are simply told 4 words: your baby didn't survive. You might be thinking these are just township stories. Then explain this. A baby girl stolen from one of Africa's most famous hospitals. The same hospital that performed the world's first heart transplant. A baby missing for 17 years, only to be found alive just 20 minutes from her mother's front door. And then we come home to Zimbabwe where this crime doesn't make the headline. A mother was operated without the approval of the families or the husband. The wife passes away and the baby goes missing. Families left with an unanswered question. By the end of this documentary, you will know the 3 rules every baby thief follows and the 6 rules that can protect your family forever. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but today you will learn it only takes one stranger to steal one. I'm going to tell you true stories that sound impossible to believe. Stories that hospitals tried to bury. Stories that took 17 years to come to the surface. If it's the first time on this YouTube channel, it's no mistake. Just make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. We're about to reach 200k subscribers. And make sure to like the video. Cape Town, South Africa, April 1997. A young mother named Celeste Ness had just given birth to her first baby, a baby girl named Zephanie. Celeste is exhausted. The birth was hard. She had a cesarean operation. Her body is stitched and heavy with medicine. But the heart is full of joy, because lying next to her bed in a small hospital crib at Groote Schuur Hospital is her daughter, 3 days old. Now, Groote Schuur Hospital is not a small clinic. It is one of the most famous hospitals in all of Africa. This is the hospital where the world's first human heart transplant was done in 1967. That is what Celeste believed when she closed her eyes to rest. While she slept, a woman entered the ward. She was dressed like a nurse. She moved like a nurse. Nobody stopped her. Nobody asked questions. Why would they? She looked like she belonged. The woman walked to Celeste's bedside. She looked down at baby Zephanie and then she picked her up and walked out of the hospital. When Celeste opened her eyes, the crib was empty. At first, she was not afraid. She thought maybe the nurses took the baby for a checkup. Every mother's mind protects her from the truth for as long as it can. But then the real nurses came and nobody knew where Zephanie was. The hospital was locked down. Police were called. Corridors were searched. Every ward, nothing. A 3-day-old baby had vanished from one of the most famous hospitals in all of Africa in the middle of the day. Now listen to this part carefully, because this is where the story stops being a crime story and becomes a love story. The police searched. South Africa prayed. Weeks passed, then months, then years. Zephanie was never found. Most families, after some time, after some years, hold a memorial. They grieve, they try to move on. But Celeste's family refused. Every single year on Zephanie's birthday, the 28th of April, Celeste and her partner baked a birthday cake for a daughter who was not there. 1 candle represented 1 year, and then 2 candles. Think about that. 15 birthday cakes for an empty chair. Celeste later said she always believed deep in her bones that her daughter was alive. She never hoped, but she believed. Some people called it denial. She called it a mother's instinct. And here's the part that will give you chills. She was right.
Well, she was just 3 days old when she was snatched from the Groote Schuur Hospital in the Western Cape 17 years ago. A woman allegedly took the baby from her mother in 1997 and raised her as her own.
Now, the teenager has been reunited with her real family. This morning, a 50-year-old woman appeared in the Cape Town Magistrates Court charged with kidnapping, fraud and contravening the Children's Act.
It's been a day of mixed emotions for this family. Their 17-year wait is over. Their daughter, snatched as a newborn, reunited with them. In the midst of their joy, they came face to face with the woman accused of kidnapping their baby girl.
She broke our heart 17 years ago. So what she's going through is from God. Because she broke many people's hearts, so her heart is broken now. We can't help it.
SABC News brought you the heart-wrenching story of the kidnapping in 1997. The baby, only 3 days old, stolen from hospital, devastating her then 18-year-old mother. In the following years, the girl's parents had more children, but celebrated their oldest daughter's birthday every year.
While Celeste's family lit candles year after year, Zephany was alive. She was not in another country. She was not in another city. She was in Cape Town, growing up just a short drive away from her real family. In the same city, breathing the same air, maybe even passing them in the streets. But she did not know her name was Zephany. She knew herself as Mishi Solomon, a normal girl, a loved girl, raised by a woman named Lavona Solomon. Mishi went to school, made friends, laughed, lived. She had no reason, none, to doubt who she was. Because the woman she called mom was the same woman who had walked into Groote Schuur Hospital in a nurse's uniform and stole her. So how was she found? That would be the question. She was found not by the police, not by a DNA database, but by teenagers gossiping at school. In 2015, a young girl enrolled at the same high school as Mishi. Her name was Cassidy, Celeste's other daughter. And the students started talking because these two girls, one in a higher grade, one just arriving, looked exactly alike. Same face, same eyes, same smile. Students joked about it. Are you sisters? You must be sisters. The joke reached Cassidy's home, Celeste's mother. When Celeste's husband heard it, something in his chest went cold. He knew his stolen daughter would now be about 17 years, the right age, the right school district, the right face. The family arranged to meet Mishi Solomon. They sat with her. They studied her face like a map of the past. So the police were called in and a DNA test was done. The results came back. Mishi Solomon was Zephany. 17 years, 17 birthday cakes, and the whole time she was just 20 minutes away. But this is not the happy ending you think it is. Now, if this was a YouTube documentary, this is where the music would start playing. The lost daughter runs into her mother's arms. Everyone cries and then the end. But real life is cruel. Think about what this moment meant for Mishi. In one single day, she learned the mother who raised her, the woman who packed her lunches, prayed for her, was under arrest for kidnapping. The strangers crying happy tears in front of her were total strangers, and yet the real family. Even her name was not her name. Everything she knew about herself collapsed in one afternoon. She was 17 years old at the time. Lavona Solomon was arrested and put on trial. And in court, the full story came out. The prosecution showed that Lavona had suffered pain of her own, the heartbreak of losing pregnancies, the desperate hunger to be a mother. In 1997, she told people she was pregnant, and then one day she came home with a baby. Her defense claimed she had received the baby from another woman. The court did not believe it. In 2016, Lavona Solomon was found guilty of kidnapping and fraud and sentenced to 10 years in prison. The trial itself was drama, a drama South Africa could not look away from. On one side of the room sat Celeste Ness. She took the witness stand and narrates the worst hour of her life in front of strangers. The empty crib, the panic, the years of searching. On the other side sat Lavona Solomon, the woman who stole the baby. She claimed she had never set foot in that maternity hall. She said that in 1997, after losing a pregnancy, she was approached at a train station by a woman, a stranger, who offered her a baby. She believed the adoption process was real at that time. In her version, she was not a kidnapper. She was a victim also. But she was a woman handed a child by someone who then vanished. The court tested the story against the evidence, and piece by piece it fell apart. The mysterious stranger was never found. No name that led anywhere, no witness, no paperwork of any kind, no adoption papers, no social worker, no lawyer, nothing. But here is a detail that shows you the strange mercy tangled inside this case. The court acknowledged that Michi, aka, had been raised in a loving home. The crime was monstrous, yes, but the childhood somehow was not. Both things were true at once, and that is exactly why this case still tears people apart at dinner tables today. One more thing. For a long time, the law protected the girl at the center of it all. Media could not reveal the identity of Zefani while she was a minor. When she finally spoke publicly, she was now an adult. Let me stop the story and ask you a question. Be honest in the comments. If you were Mishi, who is your real mother? The woman whose blood runs in your veins? Who never stopped baking those birthday cakes? Or the woman who committed a terrible crime but then loved you, fed you, and raised you every single day of your 17 years? Don't answer too fast, because Mishi's answer shocked South Africa. She did not cut off Lavona. She visited her. She still called her mommy. She said in her own words that Lavona was the only mother she had ever known, and that love does not switch off because of a court verdict. At the same time, she slowly built a relationship with Celeste and the brothers and sisters she never grew up with. And here's the frightening part, the part that connects to our next story. At least Zefani was stolen by a stranger and the crime was clear. But what happens when the hospital itself hands you the wrong baby and you raise a stranger's child without ever knowing? It happened in Johannesburg to two mothers at the same time. Boksburg, near Johannesburg. The year is 2010, at Tambo Memorial Hospital. Two baby boys were born on the same day, hours apart. The mothers did not know each other. They went home to different lives, different houses, different struggles. For 3 years, everything was normal, and both mothers are raising the wrong child. Nobody stole anybody. There was no woman in a fake uniform, no kidnapper. But somewhere in that busy maternity ward, two newborn babies were switched at birth. It was a mistake, and nobody noticed. Not the nurses, not the mothers, nobody. This is how the truth came out. In 2013, one of the mothers was struggling. She was raising her baby alone, and the father was not paying child support. So she did what many mothers do. She went after him legally for maintenance money. The man pushed back. He demanded a DNA test. Maybe he suspected the child was not his. It is an old ugly move in maintenance battles. Prove the child is mine. The test was done. The results came. The child was not his for sure. But before anyone could shout or accuse, the test showed something far worse. The child was not hers too. Stop and imagine that moment. You walk into a room expecting to win a money case. You walk out being told that the boy you carried 9 months, the boy you carried home from hospital, came from another woman's body. And somewhere out there, another woman is raising your son. That's another level of torture that can only be experienced by women. The hospital records were checked. The second family was traced. Another DNA test confirmed the nightmare. The babies had been switched at Tambo Memorial in 2010. The two mothers were brought together. Each one looked across the room, looking at her own flesh and blood, standing next to a stranger. Now, here's the question the court had to face. Do we swap them back? One mother reportedly wanted her biological son. She wanted the son back. She wanted her blood. The other could not bear to give up the boy she raised. The case went to the High Court in Pretoria, and the judges did something wise. They refused to treat the children like lost luggage that must be returned to its owner. Instead, they asked experts from the University of Pretoria Center for Child Law to study the boys, the families, the bonds between them. The guiding law in South Africa is actually simple to say and heavy to carry, and the law is the best interest of the child come first, not the mother's blood, not the mother's pain. And after all the assessments, the outcome followed that principle. The families would remain in each other's lives, so the boys could grow up knowing the truth. The courts protected the children's name. We will do the same. They are teenagers now, somewhere in Gauteng. Before you comment, I could never give up my biological child. Ask yourself honestly, could you take a crying 3-year-old baby from the only mother he has ever known? and call that justice? The next story is about a man who sold a baby boy for a price of a second-hand car, and everything was happening on camera. Everything you heard in the first stories, in the first two stories, was in a way personal, but this one, no emotional involvement at all.
Two siblings aged 3 and 8 have gone missing from their home in Komarok, Nairobi, with their devastated mother appealing to the public for help in tracing them.
What happened in this story in Kenya is worse, because in Nairobi, investigative journalists discovered that stealing babies was not a tragedy, it was a market. In 2020, a team of African journalists working with BBC Africa Eye spent a year underground. Their investigation was called the Baby Stealers, and what their hidden cameras recorded shocked the entire continent. They found that in parts of Nairobi, a newborn baby could be bought illegally, quietly, in cash, the same way you'd buy a goat or a phone. And the sellers were just regular people, the people that you smile with in the streets. Some of them worked inside the health system. To understand this crime, you must first understand who the victims are. Now, the traffickers do not target rich families with lawyers and security guards. They hunt where nobody is watching. Homeless mothers sleeping on the streets of Nairobi, young women with mental struggles, desperate girls with unwanted pregnancies and nowhere to go, women whose babies can vanish without a single newspaper noticing. The investigation that was done documented how street mothers would be befriended, sometimes dragged, and wake up to find their babies gone into a supply chain, because that is what it was, a supply chain. The investigative journalist met the street operators. Posing as buyers, the undercover team negotiated with one such trafficker. The asking price for a baby at that time was around 50,000 Kenyan shilling. Think about the mathematics of that for a moment. A phone can cost more, a cow can cost more, but in the underground market, a human child was one of the cheapest items for sale. Investigators traced how infants at this level were often taken from the most defenseless mothers in the city. Women sleeping rough, women battling addiction or mental illness, women that society had already thrown away. A mother would be befriended over days, offered food, offered a drink, and when she woke, her child was already someone else's product. Some of those mothers searched for years. They had no photos of their babies, no birth certificates. In the eyes of the system, they could not even prove the child had ever existed. How do you report a missing person the government never counted as a person? This is the part of the story that ended careers and triggered arrest. The undercover team posed as buyers, a couple looking to illegally purchase a baby boy, and their way led them not to a slum but to a worker connected to a major public hospital in Nairobi. On hidden camera, a deal was negotiated for a baby boy. The price? Hundreds of thousands of shillings, roughly the price of a cheap second-hand car. Let me say that again slowly. A child, a living, breathing baby boy, priced like a used car by a man whose job was to protect vulnerable children. When the documentary aired in November 2020, Kenya erupted. Social media went berserk for days. Members of parliament demanded answers. The government ordered investigations. Arrests followed, including of people filmed in the sting. And it's not like it's happening in Kenya only, it could be happening in your country. After the film, the whole country had seen it with their own eyes. The negotiations, the prices, the handshakes, and Kenyans asked the question that should haunt every country on this continent. How many babies were sold before someone brought a camera? And a second question, quieter, sharper, aimed at every nation watching, including ours. If a hidden camera walked through your country's maternity system for 1 year, what would it find? My question is, why is there even a market? Now pause. A market only exists if there are buyers. So who buys a stolen baby? And the uncomfortable answer is people who live among you. It could be your elder at church or that smiling assassin neighbor of yours. Understand this. Every buyer convinced themselves a story. I'll give this child a better life. The mother probably did not want this baby. Those are lies, because at the other end of that transaction is a woman in a street in Nairobi crying for her baby. But even Nairobi's baby market had a limit. The traffickers stole babies that already existed. In Nigeria, they went one step further. They decided to manufacture them. From the outside, it looked like a maternity clinic. Inside, it was something different entirely. Aba, southeastern Nigeria, 2011, police officers surround a building called a clinic. On paper, it is a place of healing, a foundation, a maternity. Inside, they find 32 teenage girls, pregnant, aged roughly 15 to 17 years. Some say they were promised help with their pregnancies. Some tell investigators something darker, that once their babies were born, the babies would not be living with them. The babies were going to be sold. The Nigerian press gave places like this a name that went on to spread around the world: baby factories. Now, the question is, how does a girl end up inside this factory? The most frightening thing about baby factories is how reasonable they look from the front door. Here is how it works, step by step, because this trap is still catching girls today. Step 1, a teenage girl gets pregnant outside marriage. In many communities, this is treated not as a situation, but as a disgrace. Her family may reject her, her church may shame her, her school expels her. Abortion is illegal in most cases and dangerous everywhere. She has nowhere to turn. Someone whispers about a place, a clinic, a hostel, a foundation run by a kind madam, or a respected doctor. They will hide you, feed you, deliver your baby safely. They will even help you arrange an adoption afterwards and give you something for your trouble. To a desperate 16-year-old, that sounds like mercy, an opportunity. Inside some of these compounds, investigators and rescued survivors have described the same pattern. Phones are taken away, movement controlled, guards on the gate, and when the baby is born, the girl is handed a small amount of money, sometimes less than $200, and then sent away. The baby is then sold, and in the worst documented cases, it goes even further. Girls kept against their will, and men brought in specifically to impregnate them. This was now a production system, a breeding system, and here is a detail from police reports and trafficking investigations across southern Nigeria that will stay with you. The babies had different prices. Baby boys were consistently sold for more than baby girls. Why? Because in communities where family lines, land, and inheritance pass through sons, a male child is treated as a bigger prize. Think about what that means. The buyers were not just breaking the law, they were shopping and comparing, choosing a child the way you'd choose a product at the market. Over the years after this incident, in Enugu, in Anambra, in Lagos in 2019, police rescued 19 pregnant women and girls in a single operation. Some had been lured with the false promises of housework. When they arrived, the job was reviewed, and the job was be a breeding machine. Every time one factory is closed, the demand that feeds it remains. After every closed operation, somewhere another one quietly opened. Now we move on to another story. In Zimbabwe, this kind of crime rarely makes international news. And that does not mean it's not happening. Zimbabwe's case is something quieter, and in some ways, that quiet is the most frightening thing of all. And before we continue in this chapter, we have changed the names of the mothers and children, and we avoid naming specific staff members because several matters remain unresolved, and every person is innocent until proven guilty. What we describe in this chapter is drawn from public reports, information which can be found in the public domain, and accounts that have circulated in Zimbabwean media over the years. Let me tell you a story about a woman, and in this video we will call her Mai Mufaro. Mai Mufaro goes to one of the top hospitals in Zimbabwe to give birth. The husband is aware, but in the morning, the husband is called on the phone and told, your wife is no more. We operated her and she lost a lot of blood, and eventually she lost her life too. Now the husband started to ask questions. Is the hospital allowed to operate on someone without the consent and signature of a relative. The husband asked for the baby and the baby was nowhere to be found.
Kuzwa mati pa mai asina mwana.
Mwana kupi?
Zino kumochari munanga asina mwana. Zwanimo kuta asina mwana si.
Yanga uya kususununguka.
Mwana. Nduzo ita utahashaike muno. Swanza uzo mwana kuno katisukusiwa.
Now, most of the families who face situations like this go home and grieve because sometimes they are told the baby passed away too. At the end of the day, people who can't afford anything don't ask questions from the hospital. So when something like that happens, who accuses a doctor? With what money? And with what lawyer? And that right there is why this crime loves Zimbabwe's silence. So this woman is gone and the baby is nowhere to be found. The husband is moving from the hospital to the police station, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. He's tired. The man went public. He felt powerless and urges the law to take its course. As I speak right now, I'm sure the authorities are working on it because the story went viral in Zimbabwe. Investigations are being done. As time moves on, I'll give an update on this story. To be clear and to be fair, babies do pass away in childbirth. Most staff in our hospitals are hardworking and they know what they are doing. It's just a few bad apples. Now let me speak directly to us, to Zimbabweans, to Africans. When a baby goes missing in Cape Town or switched at birth, it is national news for weeks. But when a mother in a high density suburb says, "They told me my baby died, but I never saw the body," too often, even our own family tells her, "Accept it, don't fight the hospital, don't shame us, it's God's will." The mother is shamed into quiet, but the problem is the system that has no cameras, no reliable baby tagging system. So officially the problem barely exists. You cannot fight a crime your country refuses to count. The reason why we made this documentary is not to accuse any hospital, not to convict anyone the courts have not convicted, but to say it loudly in simple English. Mothers and families deserve to see their babies alive, or the other way around. A country that cannot guarantee something like that has a homework to do. These crimes, when they happen, they look random, but they are not. They follow rules, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. Here are the rules of those who steal babies. Rule number 1, they strike when you are tired and exhausted after giving birth. Almost every hospital theft happens in the hours after birth, when the mother is dragged, stitched, and helpless. Rule 2, they wear trust as a disguise, a nurse's uniform, a hospital badge, a confident walk, the friendly woman in the ward who just loves babies. In every single case, the weapon was not a gun. Nobody stops a person who looks like they belong and know what they're doing. Rule 3, they hunt where nobody counts the victims. Street mothers in Nairobi, shamed pregnant teenagers in Nigeria, poor mothers in overcrowded public wards. The thieves do the mathematics of attention. Steal from a rich family, get a manhunt. Steal from a poor one, get silence. This is why the fight for these babies is also a fight about whose children matter. We are not ending this documentary with fear. We are ending it with a shield. So these are 6 rules for every family who wants to protect themselves. Number 1, never leave a newborn baby unattended, even in a hospital. Mother, father, go, sister, someone always must be awake. Rule number 2, know the staff. On day 1, learn the faces and names of the nurses on your ward. If a stranger in uniform comes for your baby, it is not rude to ask, "What is your name? Which department? I'll come with you." A real nurse will never be offended. Rule number 3, never hand your baby to a friendly stranger. Rule number 4, demand to see every time. If you are ever told the unthinkable, that your baby did not survive, you have the right to see your child, to ask for records, and to bring a family member as a witness before anything else is signed. Grief is not a reason to skip questions. Grief is the reason to ask them. Rule number 5, protect the girls. If a daughter, niece, or neighbor falls pregnant, meet her, with a plan, not a punishment. Every girl we shame into hiding is a girl we deliver to the traffickers ourselves. Rule number 6, break the silence. If something happened to you or someone you know, report it. So here's my final question. Do you know of a case like this in your family, your street, your hospital? If this documentary moved you, share it with one person, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so the next documentary finds you. Thank you so much for the amazing support.